Thank you for tuning in and thank you for watching. My name is Britney Ruby Miller. I'm here with my amazing husband, Caleb Miller, and we are so excited to welcome our first guest to the 5-Star Podcast, the one, the only Mr. Jeff Ruby, who is by far one of the greatest mentors I've ever had, my favorite human being, best friend, all the things. We love you so much. And I share this with Caleb because he says the same things.
We do love you.
We love you so much. And so welcome to the 5-Star Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All righty. So I want to disclaim this is our first podcast, and it's a bit surreal for me because although it's a test run, we're going to use this just so that you know. And I have a feeling there's going to be a ton of content that comes out of here. We've got a couple of hours to really get inside all the things Jeff Ruby, but we really need much longer than that. And your stories and your wisdom and everything. So we're going to do our best to get to all of it. There's so much that I think everybody would want to hear about your background and what you've been through. And so we're going to try to get through as much as we can here. But first, Caleb, do you have anything that you want to say?
No, I mean, I agree with that, but we'll probably have to have you back a second time to cover, because there's so much. Your life is so full. You've done so much. You've accomplished so much. You've been through so much. I mean, we could sit here and just talk about the last couple of years of being this excellent grandfather.
Do you really think I'm want to come back again? Do you really believe that?
Yes. Yes. We'll bring cigars.
Yeah, you have bourbon and cigars.
We'll have you back. We'll bring the grandkids. They can sit on your lap.
That's cool. Love that.
But no, you've been a great grandfather. I mean, there's things like a lot of people probably have read the book.
His book?
Yeah, Jeff's book, Not Counting Tomorrow. And it's a great book. We'll tag it at the end, I don't know if it's in the comments or the description of the podcast or YouTube, wherever we're going to put all this stuff, but it'll be in there. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, check it out. But even stuff that's not in there, like that book was written a while ago, and you've done some amazing things since then. Even just like, how are you a successful, super successful entrepreneur that's pretty well known, at least regionally, if not nationally, and then still spend time with, how many grandkids do you even have? 10?
11.
Okay, 11, sorry. Just had one.
Yep. The fact that you know that right off the top of your head.
That's pretty good.
You know how much it costs to be a grandfather? 11. Trust me. Seems like 22, though.
Do you have a P&L for your budget for the kids, expense report?
I'm over budget.
Birthdays and Christmas. It's rough. It's a rough one, but you're a great grandfather.
So I didn't read your bio or anything. I'm just going to quickly just kind of put out, some buzzwords here but you grew up, I want you to talk about your story, but essentially you came from absolutely nothing. And here you are with 115 million we're going to do this year, 1,000 employees. You've built this restaurant group. We're at 7 steakhouses, a catering arm. You got all your kids in the business. There's so much, though, that to get into, like what you always say, what made my bones, where I came from. And I think that that's really something that I'd like you just kick off a little bit about your childhood and where you came from.
I started from nothing and now I'm here.
Yes. Tell me more about that.
You want me to talk about my childhood?
Yeah.
Growing up?
I do.
Okay.
We do.
Well, I was born Brian Jeffrey Kranz. When I was born, my father realized he wasn't my father when I was born with blue eyes. And so he left immediately. That was the end of that marriage. I think he got divorced before I actually left the hospital as a baby. That's how quick it was. But I didn't know that till my senior year of high school. I always thought he was my father. So then my mother remarried again, Walter Ruby. And then she married again, Sidney Goldstein. And then she married again a guy named Leon Wurzel. So I consider them my forefathers.
Like the number 4?
The number 4.
And my real father was the 5th one.
Yeah. Who was the 5th one?
Louis Weiss, who was an attorney that my mother worked for. And but I didn't know all my life. I was wondering why my father had nothing to do with me. Well, he wasn't my father, and that's why he had nothing to do with me.
When did you find that out, though? Like, did you know growing up, or was it later in life?
No, my senior year of high school, my brother, who left and went with his father when I was, he went with his father, who's 6 years older than me. I stayed with my mother. And So he was over in Monmouth College, West Long Branch, and he called me one day. He said, "I want to talk to you." So I got on my Honda 50, little scooter, and went all the way from Neptune to Long Branch. It was 15, 20 minutes. And I get up there at his apartment, and he breaks the news to me. I said, "Well, who's my real father?" He said, "Louis Weiss." I said, "Okay." And that's how I knew my senior year. And then I went all the way back to my. I was living by myself. I had a 1-bedroom, about an 8x10 room with a bathroom down the hall, and all the senior citizens that lived in that house, we shared the bathroom. So I went back home and cried all night and felt sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And then I go to. I hope I don't start crying.
It's okay to cry. It's okay.
So the next day, I go to school, and Coach Bednarik, Jeep Bednarik, who was like a father to me. I'm crying. It was in gym class. And I just found out my father wasn't really my father. I started crying. I said, all this time, And he said, "Hey, Jeff, were you captain in All-State of an undefeated football team?" "Yeah." "Are you undefeated right now in wrestling?" "Yeah." "Are you getting straight A's right now?" "Yeah." "Are you probably the only kid in America doing this, living by himself at 15, not going to, or at that time I was 17? "Yeah." "What the hell difference does it make who your father was?" And that's when I realized every boy needs a dad. I stopped crying.
It's okay.
I'm crying now,
It's okay.
but that's what he said. And I had to wrestle that day too. I had a wrestling match, and I was up. I never went to sleep. And I don't know what my record was. It was like 5-0 at the time, whatever it was. But I had no pins. I went all 3 rounds, and I knew I couldn't last 3 rounds, and I was afraid I was going to lose. So I went for the pin and pinned the guy in 37 seconds, and I didn't stay for the. There was only a heavyweight or 2 after me, so I just went home. But that was my first pin. But I was really mad. So, and I knew I couldn't last 3 rounds with this guy. So that was one of the days I always remember.
It's it's a sad story. It's a great story. And I want to stay here before we get to business. I think now is the time where we would say what you just said. This is where you realized every boy needs a father. And so what did you do? How did you, we know the Jeff Ruby and everything you've accomplished. But when did you start truly pursuing that? Because it's going to be it is your legacy.
Being a father figure. Actually, there was, when the waterfront was under construction in Ludlow, Kentucky, there were 2 kids. One of them, I don't remember, but one was Eddie Powers. And they would hang out there. They were about, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. And they would hang out. They lived around there, and they would hang out. And there was a place I would get lunch right at the construction site called Reese's, I think it was, a little coffee shop. And I'd go in there, and they'd come in there, and they start talking. And we got to know each other, and we got to be, friends. And then one day Eddie, he wanted to. So, Pete Rose? I say, yeah. So I put Pete Rose on the phone. I said, Eddie, he'll never forget. So he grew up. He's whatever now, 50 or so. He was the first one that looked up to me as a father figure. And then, but it wasn't that involved. But it was, I'd take him to a ball game or whatever. But when Brad Belletti was about 14, he used to come over the house.
Okay.
And I'd be sitting on the couch or laying on the couch watching the game, and he'd just flop on top of me. Like one of the Randy Travis songs says, he flopped on his little grandfather.
How old was he, Brad?
He was about 13, 14.
13.
So maybe even less, maybe younger. So that became my first surrogate son. And you've met him. He's 50 whatever now. He still texts me, "Pop, I love you. How you doing? What's going on?" It's not changed.
Well, he said on camera, we flew all of my surrogate brothers in, and he on camera. I remember when we shot your legacy video, he said, "The man changed my life. I owe everything to him."
This
Pretty
was in
cool.
2019 for the Jeff Ruby Foundation. So about
Right.
6 years ago.
And what would happen? My office was on the top floor of Riverfront Center when we had the waterfront, and his mother called me, and I believe this was before cell phones, which we still didn't have. But anyway,
No joke.
and she's breaking it. She said, "Brad, just try to commit suicide," and
Wow.
so I got in my sports car. I think I might have had a 560 SL Mercedes convertible, and I just flew from Covington to Bethesda North. Quite a drive. And he's in the emergency room, and he's all hooked up to all these, different tubes. And I walk in the emergency room, and they said, "Who are you?" I said, "Just get out of the way." So I went in there, and he was alive, and he's all hooked up. And he said, "Are you mad at me?"
Oh, no.
And I said, "How can I be mad at you? You're alive. How can I be mad?" And it was around Christmas time. He was living with his mother, and he turned the car on, got in the garage, and she was coming home, and it was Christmas time. So she's shopping, and there's traffic. And if she'd have stopped one more stop or got gas or a little bit more, she came in there, and he was out, and there was vomit all over the garage floor. And that's when, and it could have died a minute later. And they rushed him to the hospital, and he lived.
But God.
And
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. I said, "But God." And then you were his angel. So
he thinks I saved his life. There's a few kids that I actually did, but I never saw that depression in him. I went to all his wrestling matches. I was involved with, he wrestled, and I went to, and he had a father figure, and it had nothing to do with that. But nobody knew why, he just, he was in high school. I don't know how old he was, 16 maybe.
I was going to ask a question based on this, staying on the same kind of deal, because we talk to people all the time, about the foundation work, and Jeff, how amazing of a father you were and are, and a father figure to all these young people. And a lot of people, we say, when you have a bad or even just average parent, a lot of kids grow up and become a bad parent, right? Well, this person's an adult with bad behavior and habits because they weren't raised right. So for you, can you articulate, have you, looking back now, is there a reason or a moment, like how did you flip it around and say, you know what? Because my mom did the same kind of thing. She had a tough childhood, and she said, "I'm going to do my darndest. I will, come hell or high water, I'm going to be a great mom." And there's several people I've met like that, and you're one of them, but they don't all do that. So where do you think that came from, or what would you attribute that desire? How did you keep it on the positive instead of going the other direction?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned this. First of all, the way I looked at it, I'm going to be a double dad. I'm going to make up for the dad I didn't have and try to be the dad for my kids. So I'm coming from two angles. That's the way I look at it. So, but Jason Menil, who you know,
well, the people listening do not. So go ahead.
Jason Menil. But what happened was, my ex-wife, your mother, was sitting at the piano bar at the waterfront, and she had a waterfront jacket on. And this lady sitting next to her, they got talking. She said, "Oh, you on the waterfront?" Yeah. So the lady told her story. She was in from Georgia, and her son was in the Burns Institute at Children's Hospital. And the day before Christmas, he had a can of gas, he accidentally burned 80% of his body. I mean, he was in bad shape. And they were there to go to Children's from Georgia. That's where they were to try to keep them alive and save them. So Raquel, my wife, said, Jeff, you know how you get involved with kids? I think you ought to visit a kid. And she told me the story. So I went to Children's and I met him. And his whole body was, And when he got out, he stayed around for a while, and I would take him to UC basketball games. I remember I'd wheel him in the chair and sit where the handicap were. And he's went on and on and on, and we became close. And what I didn't know was his relationship with his father. He had none, but now he's a fire chief in Georgia. He's got 3 daughters in college.
Beautiful girls.
He still texts me. He still texts me and stays in touch. Yeah. And it's still Pop. And I don't know, was he 50 or whatever? His daughters are in their 20s. What he told me once on the phone a few weeks ago is that his father told him, I didn't have a father, so I didn't know how to be a father, so I just didn't do it. Which is what I think he just said.
Yeah, he's saying, how come you went against the norm? Because that would be typical.
Really? So his father said just because he didn't have a father, he didn't know how to be a father, so he didn't try. He knew he didn't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. Get a freaking book or something, read how to be a father. So that was one case. And the other boys, the Earledge boys, the 3 brothers, their dad died when they were babies. They were close in age, and I think Jake was 7 or 8, and Nick was 6, and Griff was just born.
Yeah.
So they don't know their father. Their mother remarried a year later, and he died.
Yep.
And so he wasn't around long.
Yeah, that's wild.
And he had 4 kids. So now there's a lady with 7 kids trying to raise 7 kids by themselves, which, how hard is it to raise 1 kid? Your parents, and 7 of them. And 3 of them were not, hers, and the other 4 weren't. And then that whole story started at Highlands High School because he came up to me. He was looking for a father. Yeah.
I think for me, the takeaway, if you're listening and you're thinking, I've always wanted to foster or adopt, and it seems intimidating. Caleb and I talk about this a lot. And
isn't that funny? We're doing that now.
Isn't it funny? I know.
What an irony.
But the cool thing for you, this is what you always say. You gave an opportunity for kids to know that they could count on you, and it didn't mean that. And I'm all for making it formal, foster care and adoption, by all means. Like, that is the mission. But there's also a niche for kinship care and wraparound care, which is basically what you did, of bridging the gap. And so though you didn't formally adopt 20 boys, they knew that you were a phone call away. And that was the tipping point, I think, for them. The make or break point for the kids is knowing that they could always count on you.
These 3 kids of mine, when the Earledges were in high school, they were in high school. And I got 2 sons, and they're playing ball. And, of course, I got Britney. But their time I spent first with Jake, he was the oldest of the 3. The time I spent with Jake was time I didn't spend with them.
Right.
The time I spent with Nick was time I didn't spend with them.
Sure.
Griff was later on, so they were older. And they never got mad at me. They understood it. And they just embraced. And now, and for years, those kids, she's their big sister. Brandon and Dylan are their big brothers. And they are part of the family. That TJ, when TJ got mad at me because I said, he called, hey, Dad, they are TJ's, Griff, Jake, and Nick, and others. Big sister and big brothers, and they're family. And what they've done for those kids, especially one of them, is something beyond what I did. This is how these kids of mine are. They've embraced this. They've helped those kids. They've mentored those kids. They've try to explain me when the kids got mad at me, which is what's going to happen with kids and teenagers. So that's what they did, and I told them 100 times. The way you've done that, the way you handle this, especially during those high school years when I wasn't with you, when I was with them.
Even if you're not a mover and shaker, there's still something that you can do to impact one life. On this insane level of 20 surrogate brothers that I have, we have the most beautiful shot of them all coming as a surprise to your birthday up on stage. You had no idea. And one by one, he's talking about the foundation. And one by one, they all come up and they're behind him and he looks back. We flew him in from all over the country.
Makes you proud.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it makes me proud as your daughter.
It's funny. When I would be with one of these boys and I'd introduce them to whoever, I'd say, this is my illegally adopted son, Jake, whatever. In fact, I remember Jake calling me one time. The things you're bring up memories. I was at a party. Scott Sheridan had a place, and it was art and all this, and he wanted me at the VIP party. It was over there by Central Parkway near the stadium now. And I'm there, and Scott wanted me there, and he was kind of like a son to me. So I went to this VIP party just because Scott wanted me to.
Right.
And Jake was about 15. He calls me up, Pop, can you come get me? I said, what's my deal? I'm bored. And, the old saying, idle hands do the devil's work.
That's right. Yep.
And I left that party. Scott, I got to go. And just picked him up and took him.
That's awesome.
We went out somewhere. But I remember, I'm bored was the word she said. Can you come get me?
Yeah, you're a better man than me. I would have been like, I'm at a party, kid. I'll see you afterwards. So, I mean, that's
you wouldn't have done that.
I don't know. I'm trying to be a wonder. I don't know for sure. That's what I mean. Like, there's these stories. It's like people don't know about your dad, and I mean, you're not perfect. Obviously, none of us are. But man, that's some really, really awesome, genuine, really selfless stuff that you've done, and even on the spiritual side, because that's a big part of obviously the podcast. And you are a very spiritual person, even though you would say and said, at many times when I first met you and now you're not necessarily religious or stuff like that. I think you've always been a very spiritual person. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You can say it, but even things I feel like you've always mentioned God, even in your books, has always watched out for you. I agree with that. And even the part with your coach saying that, what does it matter who your father is? That's literally, he's basically quoting the Bible.
Really?
Right. Because the Bible says you have no father but your Father in heaven. Yeah. And we always talk about how we're more like stewards, right? We're just trying to help give our kids a good trajectory towards adulthood because they're going to be their own men and women when they grow up. And so for you, to have a mentor
they're
like
never
that,
growing up. They're going to stay kids forever.
Gosh.
Come on. My little baby Asher's not going anywhere.
In some ways, I wish. I know, I wish. But anyway, for you to have a spiritual truth, shared with you by a very wise man at that place, I mean, that wasn't by accident. And also for you to be, for God to make you the kind of person, and for you to also make the decision, right? To say, I'm going to listen to this guy. You didn't just like, okay, whatever, coach, and just go keep sobbing. You actually listened to him. And a lot of young men and women won't do that.
Well, I think I have that effect on these kids when I talk to them. That's what he gave me confidence and made me feel better. Yeah. And what kids have told me more, these kids, and there's a lot of them, as you know. You have a lot of brothers, surrogate brothers. And we take them on vacations all over the country, all over the world.
I think another good point that both of you can speak to, since we're kind of resting here for a second and processing through this. This has been important, I think, for people to hear because your dad made a good point, and you can speak to it too, that I think you said, this guy said he didn't know how to be a father. And I have compassion. I really do for people like that because I'm far from perfect myself. I want to be a better dad every day. I'm trying. At the same time, I think it's also, you sometimes got to kind of say, at some point you got to put up or shut up and man up or woman up on this stuff. And that's not an excuse anymore, right? So for you, I think it's good for young fathers either struggling or don't know how to be a father. And like what you said, hey, it's okay. Just do something. Just try. You said, read a book, do anything. Just love on your kids the best way you know how. And you'll figure it out along the way. You know how to love people. But now there's so much access to information with the internet and everything. There's
Listen
not
to
a
a
lot
great
of excuses.
podcast.
Listen to a great podcast. Call up Jeff Ruby. Ask him how to be a dad.
Well, when I interrupted you I interrupted
Sorry.
myself.
You did. That's what I was trying to get back
Here's
to. Where
here's
were
what
you?
I was going to say. And here's what I was going to say. That there's two things these kids tell me the most. It's like I don't know, it's a trend. The two things are, one, they are going to do the same thing for other kids when they get older, and for other people, not just kids, but they see the charitable work I do besides kids. They have really seen what it's done for them, and they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. And the other thing is, you saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. You gave me the confidence I never had.
I love that.
Those were the two things that mostly, I took them here, I took them there, and all that. And when they got in trouble at school, I mean, I was there. I would meet with principals. I would meet with coaches. I would meet.
Not mine. I mean, there were no problems in
no,
this.
Yeah, no problems. Up
No, you didn't go to school, so it didn't matter.
Oh, okay.
So
Tell me more.
No, well, my two sons I did, but these boys, and I remember the principal, Elgin Egan. Oh golly. Anyway, Elgin is the first name.
That sounds like a terrible name for a principal, by the way. It sounds scary.
Elgin. He was a great guy.
Oh, okay. He's
And
good.
he
We
told
like
me,
him.
it's in my book. Oh, I'll think of his name in a minute, but
Just
it'll
read the
take
book,
too long.
Brittany. Read the book.
But he told me in his whole career in education, he's never seen one person change as much as Jake did.
Wow.
And it was all because of me. And he was the principal. Now, to meet with the principal, to meet with these people, you got to get permission from the mother, which she did give me.
Right.
So I would go, he was the hands full, that kid. And he knows it now. So when I would do that, the principal saw a change in him where he wasn't so arrogant. He wasn't so, he was more, working with people. He was just.
Well, they all turned
eager to
out
get along.
amazing.
So that's the effect it had. Plus, they had a father. Nick, his brother, texted me about a year ago. He's got a kid. He said, "Pop, everything you did for me is now coming to me. I got a kid," or something like that. It's in my phone. I just don't. I just know what you did for me, and you were my dad, and now I'm a dad, and I always think back to the time you spent with me. So, something to that effect.
Let me ask you this, and this might make you emotional.
Me?
Yes, but you've got a pretty. At some point, we'll share the whole history of the Jeffrey B. Foundation. But if you had a dream, or you thought about after you're gone, what is the legacy? What is your legacy? What do you want? The biggest impact that you have through the Jeffrey B. Foundation. What do you want to happen?
Well, I hope people say he loved, he cared, and he gave.
What do you hope happens in Cincinnati, or in our country, or even globally, if there's something that we can do, which we're trying to do through the foundation, right? Through the foster care system. If people are listening and they're like, I've thought about this, or I'm thinking I might get involved, or like, what would you say to those people who are considering, or maybe not, who don't have any purpose, who don't have any passion, who might have passion, but they just don't know what they have, that how important it is, I guess.
Well, I think I said this at the fundraiser. I know I did. 80% of the men that are in our prison system now didn't have a father at home when they were a kid. And I didn't know that. That's not why I started this, because I didn't know that back then, but it's true. They didn't have that direct. Like I said, every boy needs a man. Now, no discredit. You need your mother. You need two good parents.
Of course.
You need both. And but a boy and a daughter needs a man, a father. But that's the truth of it. And I bet you that number would be lower had they had a father at home.
I think what Brittany said was really interesting too, and wanted to hear either if you had a comment or Jeff, if you would, because the same thing is, she said if people are wanting to get involved, which my thought is always, there's people that are retiring, right? And there's young people that feel like they don't have a purpose in the world because there's so much information around it. When you're in comfort, Like here in the West, here in America, when you have like a house and food and water and you're generally healthy and you're not trying to figure out where your next meal's coming from, you sit around and get bored. They're not bored when I go to Africa. They're not, certain parts. Or they're not bored when I've been to Honduras, certain parts. Right? There's poverty everywhere. There's poverty here in Cincinnati. But it's different kinds when you're really genuinely, little babies walk around naked because they literally don't have clothes. So if you're not doing that, right, you sit around and you have time to think, what's my purpose? My point is, for you, I look around and I say, man, there is so much need. And we talked about that with the foundation, right? Like we need more Jeff Rubies. And you don't have to be a successful restaurateur. Like you said, it was a coach, a high school football coach. It could be anybody. And these men said, you gave me confidence that I didn't have, right? Just one person. You don't know if it's your neighbor in your neighborhood. You don't know if it's the kid, right, that's on your little kid's flag football team or little girls softball team, just someone that you could pour into and be a positive influence. Like you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to go sign up to foster a kid to make a difference in people's lives. And there's such a need. Mental health.
But God bless the people who do.
Absolutely. Yeah. God bless those people. They're amazing. But what I'm saying is there's such a need out there.
Yes.
That people, I'm hoping they're listening to you and get inspired. Like the need is so great. And would you agree that you don't have to have you seen that in your experience? You don't have to change your whole life and jump over the moon and through a bunch of hoops to really affect these kids. It's just a little right here and there for a lot of them. Like they didn't all move in with you and you weren't with them 24/7. Was
it easy for you? Was it fun for you?
It made me feel like a kid again.
That's awesome.
And that's a good feeling.
Yes, it is.
So you probably even got as much or more out of it,
I'm the world's oldest teenager. And, Brad once told me, or I think he said it in an interview with the press, with the Inquirer. He lets me be a kid again. He lets me be a kid. And he's a big kid himself. That's what Brad Belletti said when he was about 16, 17 years old to the guy that interviewed him from the Inquirer. He lets me be a kid, which I did. And he's a big kid himself.
All right. So, Dad, you had a near-death experience, something very traumatic in your life, and also mine as a 5-year-old when you were in a coma, and you weren't expected to live. Can you take us back to that day? And I know it might be emotional, but walk us through what happened that day.
So you want me to tell you how stupid I was? Well,
it's your story.
I continue to be stupid, so it doesn't matter.
It's your story.
Really. Everyone knows I'm not all there. But anyway, what we had was the grand opening at the second floor of the precinct called Cafe Marvelous. This had run its course, and now I had to find a place, what to do with the second floor, or it's going to be empty. So I tried this thing called a dessert club. It turned out to be a deserted club. It did terrible, okay? And that opening night, it was a soft opening.
Okay.
And then I'm with Tony Kiernan, who at the time was the boss of Channel 5, WW. And he was big in this. He's a nationally known king television, I think now, but he's very, very big in television. Remember Chris Collinsworth said, Jeff, you got to get in Tony Kiernan's inner circle. He's a great, he can help you. But he was up there. He was the only one up there. And so we were talking. And it was a soft opening. But we had a few people invited, and I just remember being with him, and not too many people were there, and then some of the employees came up. Mr. Ruby, your wife's outside, wants to talk to you. She's in the parking lot, and I said,
hold on. So I will say, so you had an argument. You don't need to go into the whole thing.
Okay, so I went down there. She said, get in the car.
I'll tell the G-rated version, which it's not terrible, honestly, but he was on Jimmy Buffett's boat at the waterfront. And, right? And you might have gotten yourself in some trouble. Mom wasn't thrilled.
Yeah, well, she heard about it, but it was 2 weeks later. And we got in an argument. I had done something stupid. She wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get back to work. Right. I got a grand opening. And I got to get back to work.
Right.
And we're going on and on. And the one thing about me, I really do not like I don't like arguing. I like fighting, in fist fights and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm known for that.
We can talk about some of those.
But I don't like argue, especially
Got it.
with a woman, with my daughter, with my wife,
You shut down. You do not like it at all.
I don't like it. And so
Probably comes from somewhere.
I want to go make a right-hand turn, so it's in her car. I go back to the precinct, and she made a left-hand turn, which means she's going home, and I'm stuck with the whole night. And I'm gonna
Nothing worse than being trapped in a car with your spouse when you're fighting.
And especially when you have a grand opening, and
she's got you hostage.
She's
basically.
going east, and I needed her to go a little bit west.
Right.
And I jumped out at the red light. I jumped out of the car. She made the turn, and I jumped out of the car, which I thought was, I had Reeboks. I had black Reeboks on and a tuxedo. That's what I was wearing.
thinking. Yeah, I remember that.
And
so you were thinking you were just going to land like the Roadrunner and
Roadrunner. Coming in hot.
A couple months later, I came out of my coma, and I remember, and
so you jump out. You don't think you're not trying. Let's just go ahead and state you don't think you're not trying to commit suicide. You're genuinely trying to just escape.
There was a guy that was an old football coach, and he said, "I heard all this, and I heard all the rumors," and he said, "I don't believe in it. I just think Jeff Ruby thinks he's immortal, and that's why he got." And that's pretty much what it was.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And she was going, what, 30 miles an hour or something?
I don't know. But she made the turn, and a lot of rumors came out. In fact, the rumors were that I was on cocaine. And Tony Kiernan goes back to the studio, and he didn't know about it. He said, Jeff Ruby just did blah, blah, blah. And I heard he said, Jeff Ruby was with me drinking water. He wasn't on cocaine. You're not going with that story. So at least on WLWT, they didn't. And there was all kinds of rumors. And my attorney hired a detective to do a whole background check and a whole thing to find out what happened, which was 6 figures it cost.
Wow.
And that's back in 87, July 13th. And he went, the detective, who they call Rambo, is a Jim Simon, a former cop in Cincinnati. He went all the way to Neptune, New Jersey to interview kids that I grew up with, to see if I was suicidal, to see anything. And it came back that, I just didn't want to argue with her. But the rumors were incredible.
It was very heartbreaking to see her go through that, because so here you are, you have a 5% chance of living. You're in a coma for over a month. You are not, it's not looking good for you. And here mom is not only trying to be with you to save your life.
Mm-hmm. She was good.
And she took care of you and the doctors, but she also, you had Oprah Winfrey calling. This was front page of Cincinnati Magazine, finally did a story. But this made national news that was it. And so she had to deal with that and also take care of you. And so good thing that they did hire the detective to debunk the rumors. And then when you woke up and you finally rehabbed, you were able to testify to what it was, not testify, but your testimony. You were able to recall that's ridiculous. But for that time period, she was going through this horrific rumor mill.
I could remember everything up to the point where I jumped out of the car to get back to the precinct. I was going to walk. There was only another block and a half. Yeah. There was 2 blocks, one block, one way to the other. So that's all I wanted to do. And then after that, I don't remember, but
talk about. So then you're in the hospital. So, well, what happened? So you jump out, and what stories what have you heard about what happened, and then your time in the hospital?
Oh, over the years, a dozen people have told me they're the one that called the ambulance. So I don't know who called the ambulance, but somebody did. But I'm in the hospital, and Harry Van Leveren was the neurosurgeon of the. He was the preeminent neurosurgeon in this part of the country. And so luckily he was there with the Mayfield group. And then one day I'd come out of the coma, but I wasn't I wasn't conscious or talking to anybody. I just wasn't in a coma anymore. But you know what that's like. And from what happened recently, but
which we'll talk about at some point.
But
oh
God.
But anyways.
That makes me more sad than
it's okay.
Than what happened to me. But my wife was up there about 2 a.m. She wouldn't leave that hospital. And she sees a tear come out of my eye, and she can tell I slipped into another coma. She calls Brad Mullen, the other neurosurgeon that was on my surgical team, my neurosurgeon team, and said, Jeff is just, I think he's back in a coma. At 2 a.m, he gets out of bed and he comes to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
The University Hospital. Which if she wasn't there, or if he said, I'll see you in the morning, you know, it's 2 a.m, I would have died. So,
Okay,
listen,
so she calls.
so Brad says, listen, we're going to try something. His pressure on his brain's 22. Over 10 is dangerous, but it's 22. I'm going to try something. It's an experiment, but you need to be prepared for death. So they call in a priest. They read me my last rites. Raquel's there, and they put a bolt in my brain, some kind of bolt to try to relieve the brain pressure, which they had saw somewhere, but they never did before.
Like an electrical?
I don't know. I wasn't awake.
Well, I mean, like they shot you, or like you're talking about a
No,
nut
a bolt,
and a
like
bolt?
a bolt.
Like
Yeah.
a nail in your brain?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Wow.
And
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
Let's just close this gap real quick. Can you give us what your prognosis was?
I lost 20% of my brain, which is the frontal and the temporal lobes, which is serious lobes. If you're going to lose something,
Sounds like you would need those.
pardon me.
Those sound important in the
Well,
brain.
that's why I'm crying. One of them, the frontal, deals with controls your emotion. It's amazing how our brain acts. This one controls your short-term memory. This one controls your emotion. This one's responsible for long-term memory, and it goes on and on. And so and when your brain is 20%, you don't get it back.
Right.
You know, that's the first thing Harry Van Leeuwen said. You're never going to be the same. So that's good to hear. And you need to stay here for a year. I don't want you going back to work. I went back to work in 2 weeks. But
You did.
But
Yeah.
what by the way, what was the question?
So you're never going to be the same. You wake up. Can you give us? I want really everybody to understand how serious it was. Your percentage of living, your percentage of not being brain dead.
Okay. I lost 20% of my brain, the frontal and the temporal lobes. And one deals with short-term memory, which I have a problem with. One turns with, as you know, I have a short-term memory problem. One deals with emotion. You could see me crying just now. I can cry when I see something on TV and there's a tragedy and it has nothing to do with me and I don't even know the people, and I'll tear up. I won't start bawling, but I'll get teared up.
I argue that that's just your heart, because that's how you were before. You were always sensitive,
but
and
not
I
this
think
much.
that's okay. It's not a bad thing.
Doctor, I think you're wrong.
I think you're both right.
Thanks,
All right?
mediator
You're a
Kayla
sensitive
Miller.
guy.
Coming in.
And
Nobody
he
knows
probably
me. You know,
cries a little more.
Nobody knows me better than my daughter. You know,
That's true.
I've known you your whole life.
All right, so you lose the emotion. You also talk about the filter that you lost.
Oh, golly. I remember. Yes. Inhibition. You lose all inhibition. But
That's a winning combo. You're emotional and
but
you lose your inhibition.
what you just said, Brittany, about I was like that before with the tearing.
Yeah.
Chris Collinsworth was interviewed for the Inquirer about this. And he lost his inhibition, and he said he never had any inhibition in the first place. So I don't want to hear that. That's what Chris said. Of course, he's a pretty good friend, and he knew me. But
Seemed like a cop out. But okay.
But no, that's true. You lose inhibition.
You did.
And you don't have a filter.
Well, you say what you mean, and you don't apologize for it.
You can get a heart transplant. You can get a hip replacement. You can get just about anything now. You cannot get a filter transplant. If you lose your filter, if you're born without a filter, you're not getting another one.
Well, you have an excuse though. So you actually lost. So when people think before they speak, that went goodbye. And I think as your daughter, that was always hard for me growing up, because people, oh, he's outspoken and, you know, he can be this way, or he says whatever he wants. And it's like, hold on a minute. Listen, the guy almost died, and he genuinely in his brain lost the piece that processes what you say before you speak or what you do. And What I would say though, Dad, about your doctor said you also got tinnitus. You still have it in your ear, right? You hear the ringing all the time, and you had
I don't answer
it. And you have you had short-term memory loss, which I think is typical with head injuries in general, and concussions and seizures and all that. But you were a hot mess. The thing though, Caleb and I were literally just talking about this today with Brandon, and Brandon's given permission to share his story. The wild thing is, for those, at some point we're going to talk about my brother, his son, in July had a stroke and also found himself with pretty much the same statistics. He was dying. Mayfield neurologist comes in, miracle happens. And so we'll talk about it. That's why this is very real right now. And we're not just reliving this. I mean, we are in the thick of it, and you're watching your son right now do PT and speech therapy and all the things that you had to go through. And so if we don't get there all today, that's all right. We'll wear the same clothes and come back and reshoot another day, because
No, we won't.
Yes, we will.
You can do it, and he can do it, but I will.
We haven't even talked about
do some AI. Do some AI where I'm here and I'm okay.
The one thing that I want to say, I just want to take myself back to the moment that I thought was, for me, very emotional in a good way. You said that your doctor came out and looked at you and said, you'll never be the same. And we heard that with Brandon too. And today, the conversation that we had, Caleb and I, as we were getting ready for this, and we were talking about Brandon, because there's a video of him doing the ropes. And I said, how dare you send me that picture after I got hair and makeup done? Because I'm crying, because it's so amazing. And Brandon is a better version of himself.
I'm crying now talking about it.
And you're a better version of yourself after this. The amount of hope that people can have when somebody like you is told that you'll never be the same is Romans 8:28, and that is the life verse, that God will use it for the good, right? That there is good. You can be, you're not going to be the same. Guess what? God's going to be like, you're going to be even better. You're going to be a better version of yourself. Circumstances that you went through, the Bible talks about rejoicing in suffering, all of that. And not that we would ever want that to happen again.
Right.
But God redeemed all of that with who you are. The best version of Jeff Ruby you could be.
I think one of you asked before and I didn't answer. But here's the answer. Here's an example. When I got out of the hospital at a university, and I had been through a lot of, I had to go to, at the time, Holmes Hospital for speech therapy, which isn't there anymore. And I got out of the hospital, and I would go back to the hospital, to university, for either speech therapy or physical therapy or occupational therapy, maybe all three. But I remember I was in Holmes for a while for something. And I was at another hospital for psychiatric hospital, because your mother thought I needed to go, So it was one flew over the cuckoo's nest for me. That one, okay?
Right.
And I said, get me out of here. I don't need to be here. But anyway, you have to tell your story, okay? My story is I'm nuts, okay? Let me go. But I went back to university a lot for speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy, exactly what Brandon's going through. And that's why I felt so confident with Brandon. Mm-hmm. He's my bloodline. He's my DNA. He's my son. He'll make it too. That helped me with Brandon, why I felt confident. So anyway, I go back there, and the nurses and all up at that floor would have articles in the paper they were proud of. They were nurses that took care of me. Jeff Ruby's this, Jeff Ruby's better, Jeff Ruby, whatever it was. They had articles about it. And I would go to people that were in a wheelchair, and they were just like me at that time. Like, and I'm not making fun, but they were, and they could see me, they could listen, they could hear. And I'd say, listen, I'm back. You see me, and I was just like you now, like you are. You're going to be good. You're going to be fine. And I didn't know these people, but I just felt, so that's what you feel like you have to do.
And it reminds me of Damar Hamlin. Will you talk a little bit about that night?
Yeah. I've done that with a lot of kids before Damar Hamlin that I just knew. I read about. Yeah, I've done this before for people that were in my situation
Right.
that I wanted them, and they weren't celebrities. They were kids actually.
All the time you do that.
And in a car accident, 3 kids lived, and three kids died, and 1 kid didn't.
Yes.
And I wanted to be there for him at the and he was, So I've done this a lot.
You just show up though. I just want to say this so people understand. You're not invited. They don't call and ask you. You just drive to the hospital when there's an emergency like this and show up and say, I'm Jeff Ruby. I want to talk to the kid or the parents.
So as I can relate, and I want them to know that I was pronounced dead. You're going to be fine. Okay? That kind of a thing. So when we were in the plane, and we didn't know the game going on, but we saw the game was stopped, Buffalo and the Bengals. And when we get out of the plane, we're hearing about what's going on, what happened. And he's in the university hospital. He may not live. I was in the university hospital. I wasn't supposed to live. Let's go and see what we can do. And I remember, and you were the one that got every restaurant involved. So I don't want to take credit for that. You got every restaurant involved, not just our restaurant. But anyway, I remember being up there, and I said, ma'am, my name's Jeff Ruby. I was given a 5% chance of living in this same hospital on the same floor he's on, and he's going to make it. And I want you to know he's going to make it.
This is to his mom?
Yeah.
To his mother. It meant a lot to her. She didn't know me. And I put my arms around her, and then we brought food.
Well, then we prayed, right? We got all the family
Were you
was
there
there.
the first day?
Yeah.
So, we always prayed. And we couldn't get to see him. He was in intensive care. And
the first night, we couldn't. We dropped it off and then we prayed.
We didn't see him for a while. We saw him on the Sunday before he left.
Yeah.
He left on Monday. We got to see him Sunday. And his agent was there, who still calls me, and different people. And we had a relationship with the Buffalo Bills, the general manager, and people like that. They were they were eating in our restaurants. And then you got the Burns, you got other restaurants involved, and every night and every afternoon, they had something to eat. And food reaches a person's heart. It's part of my training, okay? Food does a lot besides fill your stomach. It fills your heart when people help you, okay? And I always said, our food fills our guests' stomachs. Our people fill their hearts. That's what I've always trained people in our staff, why servers are so important, because it touches a person. Food doesn't touch but a person does. But you bring food and you make them feel, boy, these people care. It's like going to a funeral and people showing you feel better. So many people cared about my son, my daughter, my father, my son, my whatever. And she was very nice. And we brought them food every day. And we talked to them every day, Britney and I. And then Britney got other restaurants involved in case they got tired of our restaurant.
Yeah, they had Nada, Boca, they had Soto. Every day there was a different meal.
Pitched it. It was like COVID later on. She got everybody together.
And it was also the staff of the hospital. So everybody on the ICU had a meal every day.
So, and I remember the meal being
ICU.
in one of the rooms there, and I saw all the food in the room the parents were staying in or hanging out in. Not they weren't living there, but they were hanging out there. And they were hanging out there 24/7, but but finally, I'm allowed to see Damar. It was Sunday. Jeff, you want to meet him? He wants to see you. We went up to the room, Britney and I, took a picture with him. And he was in the same floor I was. Maybe the same room, I don't remember, but I know that floor. I think it was the 3rd floor, but I know that floor. And pardon me. And we have a relation. I mean, when he came back to town, we had dinner together just a few months ago. But
we didn't just take a picture. You looked at him and you ministered to him.
Oh, I told him.
And gave him great hope.
Yeah.
And it was right when he woke up, because we weren't even allowed to tell anybody he woke up. It was, keep this on the down low. Mm-hmm. We do not want anyone to know anything going on. Mm-hmm. You're the first ones really to come in here, and you shared with him how bad your situation was.
For them to let us in the room, they knew how much it meant. what we did for the family by being there for them and taking care of them. And they didn't have to go anywhere. They could eat there, and they have great food from great restaurants.
Yeah.
And so they let us in. You know, I think it was a year later. The first responders and Damar was coming in to Limpica, our event center, for a dinner, like 10 people, 12 people, all the doctors and all those people. And Damar was going to be there, obviously. And I walked over there, and he hugged me. Jeff, how you doing? It's good. And I said, how the hell do you remember me from being up there? How do you remember that? He said, I'll never forget it.
Oh.
And we've talked since then. We've had dinner since then, you know. Yeah. And he made a huge play the other day. And again, I mean, he's good. He's in good shape. He's playing and he's not worried, I guess. And, but when he remembered me, I was going to say, hi, my name's Jeff Ruby. This is our place. And I was up in the, no.
Aww.
As soon as I saw him, Jeff, how did you remember that? I couldn't believe it. Because I know how I was. How do you remember this stuff?
Yeah.
You know,
how do you even know this guy was up there?
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Perception's reality. And people don't, I'm glad we're doing this because Caleb was with me. And my biggest concern was, as your daughter, which is typical, you know, Ford Taylor talks about there's always one more thing you just don't know about somebody. No one knew your heart. And my concern was, and I've seen this before, oh, there's Jeff Ruby stealing the limelight. Cameras out here. The news is set up, and in walks Jeff Ruby. And the rumors are he's trying to get publicity. And you could care less about that. You're going there to do what you did.
Well, that's why some people don't get involved.
And there's always trolls and there's always haters.
Yeah.
And I'm telling Caleb, man, I really hope this doesn't backfire. And now all of a sudden what he's trying to do is good. And then you get all this stuff. And that's what one of the things Caleb's like, you got to get over that, Britney. Like at some point you just have to not care that people think that. And that's what you said to me. You're if you lived, you always told me, Britney, you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
Just you're never going to please everyone. And I think that was the hardest thing for me.
It's like a presidential election. Half the people, or 48%, ain't going to like it. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, you can't win. Yeah. I mean, not everybody like Jesus Christ either. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. That's
hated in his
true.
hometown.
And they still don't. A lot of them.
You want to transition us?
Well,
anything else?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to say something. We may or may not, like you said, we may or may not include this, but it was very frustrating for me, right? And I might as well be an objective party, right? Because I'm not going to just blindly defend anyone, even you, as much as I love you, and even my own wife. I'm going to have her back no matter what. I'll be there, but if she does something wrong, I'm not going to lie. If you have an ulterior motive, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm not going to call you out, but I'm not going to lie and say, you know what I mean?
Right.
You didn't, something that you didn't do. And that was a really good point I think that you made because like you said, a lot of people don't get involved for that reason. So would people who are haters, would they rather Jeff not help people and being afraid that he's going to get bad publicity, say he's doing it for the publicity, then so many people wouldn't even get helped. It's so ridiculous, the world that we live in today. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way.
No.
I've been ridiculous. People are going to be the way they are. But anybody listening, it's like if you're thinking about helping somebody and you're wondering about the optics of it and you're not going to help somebody, I think that's wrong. I think people need help. You need to help them. And the cool part for me watching was, again, social media is
the communication of cowards.
Right.
Okay? Social media, Twitter, whatever they call it, X, is the communication of cowards.
Correct.
They love it.
They love it. But the good news was the cool part that I thought was redeeming, because we've talked about, you know, your dad and you said rumors, this and that. And when I first met you, you know, I heard different, you know, stories. Like most people were positive, but it's like, you know, he's a polarizing guy. He's says what he means, you know, all this different stuff.
You heard I was in the mafia.
I did hear you were in the mafia, but we don't have to talk about that.
We should. The Bengals
That's a pretty
chaplain
funny story.
tried to brainwash Caleb and say, don't date Ruby's daughter.
And
well,
He's in the mafia.
Well, that's fine.
That's a whole nother story one day. That would be great to
It would
share.
be funny to talk about, but
That guy.
I wasn't sure I wanted her to marry you, so I said no
that's
comment.
fair. That's fair. That's fair. Maybe I am. But the redeeming part, again, we don't have to use this.
I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Really. The redeeming
I
part.
wanted him to be scared of me.
Keep
That's
going. I'm
fair.
sorry.
I don't know. It's okay. I just wanted to say the redeeming part for me was, even though, there's trolls everywhere
Yeah.
and don't feed them. And they taught us that, in the NFL and even in college, you get the media training and all that stuff. Don't read the sports writers. They're a bunch of slappies. They don't know what they're talking about anyway. Don't read all that stuff. And it's the same with all media, especially today. But I thought it was still cool that, and I've seen this a lot with Jeff Ruby's. It's like you find out that, the proof is in the pudding, and the proof is in your life and the fruit of your life. The Bible says, you will know them by their fruit, by their actions, right? By your legacy, by things that other people say about you, right? So ask my wife. People like, I do life coaching, I do mentoring. I've been mentored and coached a lot because I've made a lot of mistakes, right? And so it's like, well, how are you qualified to coach? Like, well, ask my wife and kids. Like, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And so for you, it was really cool to watch. I did peek at some of the social media posts about it where people were trying to say this and that and the other in publicity, make those claims. And the coolest part for me was watching random people, some of them I knew and some of them I didn't, that just went to bat for you and for the Ruby family and for the Ruby organization, that said the truth. And the truth was, they're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Jeff has helped so many people with no publicity, and I'm one of them. And they told a little snippet of their story. There were probably 10 of those. And that's not even close to all of them.
Yeah.
And people that your kids, through your legacy, your wife, Raquel, over the years, all the charity work she's done, or ex-wife, Britney and Brandon and Dylan, and all the things that they've done. It was really just nice for me to see the truth come out.
Yeah.
And people come to bat, where I'm sitting there like just seething, watching it, wanting to, go find these people and smack them. Because they're basically lying and they're wrong, gaslighting and all that stuff. But it was really cool to see that people that love you take the time to sit there and you know what, I'm going to take and type and actually defend Jeffrey, because it was the truth. And
You
they
got
were
a lot of
passionately
fans out
defend.
there.
Yes. People know the truth about you, and the people that don't know us in general, and that's good for people listening to this. If people don't know you and they're going to talk about you, why are you going to let other people affect your life? We don't have to get into the deep part of that. That's pretty common sense. But it was really nice. It's still nice to have people go to bat for you. And we're not going to live and die by those emotions, by what other people think. But you know what? It doesn't always happen. And a lot of people went to bat for all of you guys. And that was really cool.
What's important is what you do when nobody's looking. And they don't know that. They don't know that.
And that's okay.
But here's a perfect example.
That's a great saying. Yeah. I like that.
The OJ thing.
Yep.
When I said, OJ, I'm not serving you.
Yep.
His attorney, Yale Galanter, came out on national. It was a big deal then. I didn't know it was going to be big. But he said he did it for publicity. That was never.
Explain what you did.
By the way, before I forget. So she's dating another guy who was a baseball player.
Where is this now?
And he was a Major League Baseball player.
This is during the OJ thing, right?
No, this is people. And I talked to Mike Piazza about
Let's
it.
give exact dates on this.
And so I didn't say anything to Mike. I said, the guy's older than her, blah, blah, blah. Well, my dad was older than my mother and all that. So it's spring
Hall
training.
of Fame catcher.
It's, yeah. And it's spring training.
Piazza, not your boyfriend.
And
Hall of Fame football player.
my friend.
Yeah.
And he's a catcher in the Hall of Fame now. And her boyfriend at the time.
Who you hated.
Well, I didn't.
It's okay.
I hate anybody.
You're allowed to hate him now, but it's all
I
good.
hate anybody
the
that's
time.
dating my daughter. Okay,
Especially if they're like
that's fine.
30 years older than her.
That was the issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the OJ story?
She was in Las Vegas more than Wayne Newton, and I didn't know why she was going to Las Vegas, but she was there more than
He lived there.
Okay, so she's so Piazza. He's a bat, this player, and Mike, because I called him about what do you know, because I knew he was a player, and I figured, Mike, do you know this guy? And I didn't say anything to him about what to do to this guy. And the guy's at bat, and he's catching, and he says, stay away from Jeff Ruby's daughter.
It's a great story.
It is a great story.
And Mike Piazza's Italian, and I don't know, the rumors maybe what's going on. Well, like you heard the rumor. And
That you were in the mafia.
and he's now he's hearing from Mike Piazza. And he struck out. He couldn't.
Well, he
was,
heckled him the whole game.
he was a nervous wreck. He could, and every at
so
bat, every
funny.
pitch, stay away from Jeff Ruby's daughter. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. He goes to first base on one play, and there's Eric Karras, who's a friend of mine. Eric Karras, the
He
first
couldn't
base.
get away from it.
Stay away from Jeff Ruby's daughter. Right? He goes, Paul LaDuca, another catcher, Italian. Stay away from Jeff Ruby's daughter. I never told these guys to say that.
The
That's
problem
hilarious.
is
But
you
she didn't believe me. She was so mad at me.
Oh.
She-
Yeah, weren't you
Oh,
mad?
yeah. You
I'm
didn't
sure
tell
he was
him.
pissed.
You didn't tell Mike P. I did not tell him to say anything. I didn't
I'm
know
at
he's,
home.
How do I know he's going to be catching when this
Right,
guy's at
that's
bat?
fair.
I'm
Okay?
at home. He comes home after a game.
Yeah.
He's fuming. He's pissed at me. And I'm like, what is the problem? He's like, you know what your dad did? I go, what? There's a freaking game going on, like 7:00 game or something. What could he have done? He's like, I got heckled the entire freaking game by Piazza, Karras, Paul LaDuca, all those guys. And every time I got up to bat, he was heckling me. You're not going to date Ruby's daughter.
That's pretty
Anyways,
funny.
I did not tell any of them
Yeah.
that.
All right.
I didn't know they said until
Back
she
to the
told me.
story. Can you quickly walk us through what happened with O.J. Simpson?
We opened Louisville a year earlier, but I didn't want to be open for the Derby because the team wasn't ready. It would be like you playing without an exhibition game. And the
Yeah.
Bengals said, okay, here's the first game, but we didn't have so our staff wasn't ready to have that kind of a night. The first Derby was in May, obviously, and I said, no, we are not opening, and we're not opening for Mother's Day, another big night, because we're not, short-term greed leads to long-term regrets. I
Right.
am not doing this so we can make a lot of money and screw up, and everybody said, that place was horrible. I'm not doing that. Whatever year that was. So now the next year, we are open by then. We're open a few months after the Derby. So now the next year the Derby comes around, and I'm seeing on TV there's O.J. Simpson on TV, and they're coming, hey, O.J.'s up here. And it's on television Friday, okay? And so Friday night comes at the place, and it's, I got a GM there, so I'm not working. I'm just there. And the place is packed. And there was no place to sit, and my legs are getting tired. I'm tired, and I go on the stage. We got a big band playing. I've got a large stage, about a 25-foot long stage, and I just sit down on the stage with my feet hanging over, away from the band, all the way in the corner there, because there's no place to sit. I'll sit on the stage, my legs hang over the stage, and that's a chair. And that's where I'll sit. Some kid, some guy, whatever, comes up, all giddy. OJ's here. Oh, really? OJ's here. And he's all excited about it. And he's a walking piece of murder memorabilia, as far as I'm concerned, okay?
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and it always bothered me. You know how I get involved with Drew Peter, whatever it is. I get involved with people that never got justice.
Justice issues.
And a lot of them,
You've always
because
done
a
that.
lot of them, the Drew Peters thing, because they were poor people and they couldn't
Right.
get the help in the other people and get all the great attorneys. In Drew Peters' case, that guy got all the great Chicago attorneys. But anyway, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I will never forget Fred Goldman and his daughter Kim, their expression. They've been playing it for years since the trial when they said not guilty. And his daughter crying, and he just couldn't believe it. And I said, what do I do about this? I always said, I don't want him in my place. And he was at the waterfront long before that. And I was living in Anderson, and I got a call, O.J. Simpson's here. It was like 1:30 in the morning. I said, well, don't do anything, because I'm not going to tell them to throw him out. And I'm not, by the time I get there, it'll be 2:30 in the morning. Forget about it. Mm-hmm. Well, now he's in Louisville, and I'm there. There's no excuse not to throw him. And I don't know what to do.
Now's your moment.
Now is, yeah. But I didn't know he was going to be there, because it wasn't like a reservation for O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there thinking what to do. Whew, this is a tough one. Now, later on, people said it was publicity. That his attorney started that thing on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what to do. So I got three things. I got three people inside of me: my gut, my heart, and my brain. And if two out of the three tell me to do something, I do it. If 2 out of 3 say don't do it, I don't do it. Whatever, doesn't matter which 2. 2 of those 3 things, okay? So I'm there, sitting on that stage. My heart says, just remember that look on Fred Goldman's face. Don't let him eat here. Don't let him sign autographs. Don't let him do pictures with people. This is not who you are. So my heart already voted. I got 1 vote. I'm trying to get a second vote. My brain won't. So I asked Arturo Fuente at the time. I take another puff of my cigar. I take another, at the time, Jack, I say, hey, Jack, you got to help me here. I take another sip of Jack.
There you go.
And by the way, I was far from drunk, but I had to get some help from somebody. So I take a puff of cigar. You know, it's like you're, well, let me
Gives you
think
time
about
to exhale.
it. You know, yeah. So I take a puff of cigar, I take a drink, and I got to get another vote. And my gut, well, first of all, my brain sustained. My brain said, I want nothing to do with this
Right.
one, okay?
That's what I was thinking.
There's nothing I want. You just keep me out of this. So
your
the brain's not voting.
Your brain's still
The
working
brain-
pretty well, even after the injury. Your brain was right.
I still got 80% of my brain, and the 80, and it said, "Don't." No, I am not voting. It didn't say don't do it. It didn't say do it. It would not vote. Okay.
My brain would not vote.
It
I like that.
What did I say? Sustain. It abstained, and that didn't sustain, but it
That's
abstained.
funny.
So now I got to find what my gut tells me. And after I talked to Jack, and after I talked to Arturo Fuente, I decide my gut says do it. Get him out of here. So I'm walking, and he's back in the Churchill room. And I didn't know where he was. I'm asking people, where is O.J. Simpson? I don't know. And finally said, oh, he's back in the Churchill room. Now, there's 2 uniformed policemen, Louisville, that Jason was the GM. He had cops there anyway because of the crowd. It was our first derby. And they got their guns. They got their pepper spray. They got everything. They're in uniform. They got everything. They're billy clubs. They're in uniform. They're at the front entrance of the place. I don't want them. I want to deal with this by myself. I want to kick this guy's ass. Okay? I want to get in a fight with him if he refuses to leave.
Yeah.
I don't want no police.
And let's be honest. I mean, you kicked plenty of
Oh, yeah.
booties in your lifetime.
I said, I want to see if this old Cornell linebacker can kick
If you
this
still got it.
NFL Hall of Fame running back.
Because you're not a spring chicken, but you're a brawler at heart.
No. So I'm not going to go there and start fighting. I'm going to say, you got to leave. And if he starts some stuff,
You are
then
ready.
You're here for it.
Yeah, unless he grabs
You're
a
going to pin
steak
him in
knife.
32 seconds.
Unless he grabs a steak knife, then I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm just reminding people, like, you're a tough guy. You beat up plenty of people in your life and defended yourself. But this is a question mark if it's going to end well for you.
Yeah. So I don't tell the cops, hey, come with me. I want to throw the OJs in. I just go back there.
Right.
Cruising for a bruising.
Yeah.
You're cruising for a bruising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I'm going to see if I can handle myself. Okay. And I go in there. He's at a table for 12 people, but he's by himself. He's at the end of the table with a chair facing this way, and then there's 6 chairs this way or something. And there's other people in the Churchill room doing their thing. And he's there by himself. And I said to OJ, who I've met before. I've taken photos before.
Mm-hmm.
He's been at the precinct long ago, and he was nice. He knew me, and I knew him, obviously. And I walk in there, and I said, I'm not serving you. Now, I didn't know that Jason, our GM at the time, had followed me because he saw something was wrong. He could see me walking pretty damn fast to that Churchill room. He said, something's going on. So he followed me. I didn't know he was behind me.
God bless him.
Right.
Yeah, he was worried. He said, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on because he's not just walking normally. And I didn't know he was standing there by behind me. And I said, I'm not serving you. I remember that. And he just sat there and looked at me. And I went like this, get out, which I didn't know. Jason said I did that. I said, okay. I said, get out. I'm not serving you. And then I walked out of the room, and I was right by the door there in the main dining room, waiting for him to leave. And if he doesn't leave, I'm going back. And he came out. And he said, Jeff, I understand. I couldn't believe it because, Like I said, we have met a few times. We had a photo that went somebody took a photo of us at the precinct, went all the way down to his ankles, but did not have those Bruno Mali shoes. I wish, and looking back at that could have been the thing. Because it wasn't a headshot.
Serious right now. He's like, this was the evidence.
It was a full shot except the feet. Whoever took that picture, okay? And it's on the wall at the precinct. So anyway, so I didn't take a picture of myself. It wasn't a selfie.
So he walks away respectfully.
So, but somebody took a picture, and we had it on the wall with the celebrity photos, and it was him and me, a full body shot other than the feet.
So you got nothing against the guy before the trial is the point.
It was
you knew
fine.
the guy, y'all were cool.
Everything was fine until then, okay?
Yeah.
And he says, will you let me find the rest of my people in my party? Because they're here somewhere. So he was really polite.
Unfortunately, because you were ready.
And I thought, he was being so nice. I thought, maybe I should let him stay.
Ooh.
And then I said, no. Okay. So,
but it didn't last very long.
He was polite. He said, Jeff.
Then your brain kicked on and it started working. It was unanimous.
I still had my 2 votes to say kick him out. So I did not go try to get another vote. Okay. We're not going to have a recount. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was nice about it. He did not start any trouble. And so he's looking for the rest of his people. And then this young blonde comes up to me, his girlfriend, in her 20s, like much younger than him. And she says, you can't throw him out. This is America, okay? He has the right to eat at a restaurant. I said, listen, honey, if I was you, I wouldn't be worried about whether he has the right to eat at a restaurant. I'd be more concerned if he has the right to murder you, too. That's what I'd be worried about. And he was found not guilty. I said, that's true. And then in another trial, he was found guilty. I said, let me ask you, if you think they have another trial, 2 out of 3, how do you think they're going to vote now? Okay. So she was, she wanted him, and she was being beat up by him. It was on TV all over. She had already been beat up on her. Okay. And I found out about because Jose Rijo, the former Red, used to date her. But it was on TV. And she always said, I slipped at a gas station on the floor, on the ground.
That's sad.
But she had already been beat up by this guy. Okay. And she looked a little like Nicole Brown Simpson. And she was about that age and all that. So anyway, he leaves. And I'm making sure he leaves. So I'm walking through the room with him all the way to the front door. And then when I come back, there's a standing ovation. People are clapping. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. I said, he's back. I thought they were applauding him. They were applauding me. Wow. Now I go back in the church room and they stand up, they start applauding me. I said, okay, maybe this wasn't such a bad idea. Because you've got a lot of things going through your mind.
Right.
Race, popularity.
Which he did accuse you of being a racist.
His attorney did all his talking.
Yeah.
And the manager in that room happened to be African American. The funny thing about that, after he left, and late at night, and the room's empty, here comes Michael Jordan with a party of 40, no reservation, but the place is
took his spot.
It's late at night.
Yeah,
it's
I remember that.
Late at night, and there's Michael Jordan, and there was 1 white girl and 39 black people. Mm-hmm. And come on in, the room's empty. So I wasn't a racist for them.
Wow, that's pretty funny.
All right, that's a great story. Okay, so
that's a really good story.
We have 10 minutes. I'd like to bring it home. I would also like to propose. We did not speak at all about business. I do want you to come back for round 2 because
Yes.
I want to get into the waterfront and what it was like when the waterfront floated away and the risks you took in Cornell and graduating.
It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to sit.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to rush it. This was a lot. The stories that you shared today are all about being bold, being confident in yourself, taking risks, betting on yourself, standing,
and not caring what anybody thinks.
Not caring what anybody else
and
thinks.
not being apologetic at all.
So you are a rare form. There are lots of people listening who are not as confident in their decision making. They feel one way, but they don't know if they can stand up or whistle blow or do whatever it is. So what would you say, like, how do you get the confidence? I mean, even at 15 years
Well-
old, what do you say to those people?
Well, stay true to yourself. You know, when I have made comments, which you wouldn't allow now, because you're the CEO and you're a better CEO than I could have. I was never CEO. I was just a owner. I never gave myself a title. But I would rather lose some business by saying what I feel needs to be said than lose respect for myself for not having the courage to do it. And if it affects business, it was OJ. That could have affected business.
Right.
You know, I didn't know. It wasn't a marketing thing at all. But there was a lot of, I went through a lot and death threats and all that. But it turned out okay. But
And then
but I
mentoring
do
young
what I think
boys.
is right.
Yeah.
I do it. That's why I went to Joliet with Drew Peterson and stuff like that. But I just do what I don't care. I don't care. I just want to say. And you know what I say? And Chris told me this once. You say what we all want to say, but we're not going to say it. Because they're smart. I never claimed to be smart. I just claimed to be honest.
You're very smart.
You are very smart. So
You're very intelligent.
So you're encouraging people to stay true to who you are, is what you said.
Stand up for what you think is right. Do it right. Be polite. Do it right. You don't get violent. Don't get vulgar. But if you believe in your heart something needs to be said, something's going on. There's a lot going on. Speak up and say how you feel. And don't be ashamed and don't be scared to. Just do it right, And that's what anything I felt strongly about. And being, we talk about the spotlight. Boomer Esiason has a stage, obviously, okay? He raised $200 million for cystic fibrosis because you ought to see that documentary. Chris told me the other day to watch it. I watched it last night. $200 million.
So this is for cystic fibrosis because his son has cystic fibrosis, right?
Yeah. His son, the Boomer Esiason Foundation. He's married with a kid now, his son, Gunnar. But he used his platform, and probably more than $200 million now.
Yeah.
And I said, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm tearing up. He was a friend of mine. And I'm thinking to myself, halfway through the show, Boomer Esiason changed the world. 5 minutes, and Chris was interviewed for the show. He's the one that told me to watch it. And Chris was interviewed at different intervals of the show, and because he was very involved, and he's just the best.
Yeah.
And
Chris Collinsworth.
yes, right? Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah.
And about 5 minutes after I talk to myself a lot, okay, because I want to talk, because most of the time I'm talking to people, they're not listening anyway.
Not true.
This way, I cut out the middleman, and I just talk to myself, okay?
He's looking at me.
And so I say, so a few minutes later, Chris is on there. Now, this was taped whenever it was taped, but it was 2024. And Chris said, Boomer Esiason altered the world. Not many people can do that. I look up the word alter on my phone, and the first synonym is change. He said that. I said, Chris, I said, listen, you said the same thing I did, but I said it before I knew you said it. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's the same word. He altered the world, he changed the world. And it's funny how I thought that, and he said it in his interview on that show months ago.
Yeah.
He changed the world. So people can do that if they have the platform, especially, if you got Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or whoever, TV, whatever, movie star, television star, anybody can, because they get the coverage, and because who they are, people feel, well, maybe he's right,
And I want to say too, agree with all you guys and kind of tying a bow around this thing if we're running out of time, because everything you're saying, it's, I mean, I'm not sitting here thinking about how do we tie this, to our faith, because, everybody has to have core beliefs, Jeff, like you did. And for us, we believe that comes from God and as Christians in our spirituality, because without that, there's, without something really permanent of a core belief system, things, you don't have anything to stand on, right? There's no permanence. You can't speak
Moral
from
ground.
a place of strength.
Right.
You're just wondering am I right or wrong? Is this ethically right or wrong? And so for you, you had a good moral foundation, whether it was from someone who you grew up, or Jeep Bednarik, your coach, or just God gave it to you. You always had that. And the point that you made about being honest and standing up and speaking truth. And I think that's really important for people today, Christians and non-Christians and everybody out there, you know, to be able to stand up, because there's cancel culture and all the things about being afraid to speak up about things that are controversial. We don't want to be controversial. We're like you. I don't like conflict. I don't like controversy. I want everybody to like me as much as the next. I know they're not going to, but I don't like it when people think I'm a jerk or something, or I said something wrong, or if I came off wrong. That hurts my heart, because I love people like you, and you love people. You're a great example of that. And I think that this is really important to encourage people, what you said, and to show people. It's like you were doing this since you were very young. And you spoke up and did what was right since you were very young. You did it when you had nothing, and you carried that over to when you were working to be successful in something in the world's eyes, because you've been a success for a long time, right? The world's idea of success, like having a successful business, right, and raising amazing children and things like that. In the world's eyes, you are a success, but you've always been a success. And so for people to draw strength from that and say, listen, don't be afraid. If you see something going down and you feel like you need to act, everybody knows what's right and wrong. Everybody has a conscience, and the Bible says that too. Everybody's born and knows what the difference in right and wrong is, right? So doing what's right and not being afraid of what other people are going to think about it is a big deal. Now, there's a big difference in, you know, speaking out on how you feel and saying, well, I don't think that's fair, this, that, and the other. That's open to, you know, interpretation and objection and stuff like that.
Sure.
But for the most part, like standing up for truth, standing up for what's right, you see something going down wrong, even just trying to make a difference, it's better to give it a shot, and don't be afraid to fail. Like, well, I don't think I can make a difference here. You don't know what impact you might have. Like you said, we'll go sometimes and just pray for the person at the gas station. They look like they're down. Like, wow, thank you so much, like, for checking that out. I like your glasses. I like your hairstyle. I like that. Anything you can say to bring people up because of the mental health stuff going on in the world right now, and everything that you've done for people. I just think I'm drawing from this whole conversation a lot of different things. We could go a lot of different directions, but I think being a light, being an encouragement to people, those with a platform, like you said, right? Because they can make a big influence, but especially people without a platform, Jeff, just like you, because you didn't always have a platform and you did it anyway.
Yeah.
When you're pronounced dead, you start looking for God. Okay, maybe you didn't find him before, but when you're pronounced dead, you know something's going. That's when that's when you start really appreciating and thanking God and believing in God and believing in Jesus, and that's when you get closer to God, and when you've been through that.
Thank you for being here, Dad. Thank you for being the most amazing dad to me, Brandon, Dylan, all 20 kids. You are the most special person that we know. We love you. He loves you.
I do.
Like a dad, like the real dad to him. And so thank you for coming on twice and being here and sharing a little bit of your story, because I feel incredibly blessed. Like, people are going to listen to this, Dad, that are like, I get a chance to listen to Jeff Ruby. I got to live it out my entire life, and then leadership and business and all of it. And I know what a privilege that is and what a blessing it is to me. And I never take it for granted, Dad. You might think sometimes I'm not listening, which I have a feeling a lot of parents think their kids don't listen. I hear everything you say. I love you so much.
You're a proud dad because you have great kids, and you're an awesome one.
Way to live a 5-star life, Jeff Ruby.